Coming to you live from my apartment, it's Rob Has a Podcast. And now here's the guy who's exhausted with another Kylan HOH. I am Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our Sunday night recap. The final six. He's here at an HOH and got some nominations and here to talk about them. Let's bring in our panel for tonight. A man who is always keeping a close eye on everything going on the BB Live feeds. Here is the great Taran Armstrong. Taran, how are you?
I'm excited, Rob. They call me the smartest idiot to grace the RHEP sound waves.
I noticed that you said grace, Taran, so you must be one of God's children.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to say to me.
Yes. Well, I'm full of weird things to say. Yes, Taran, how's your weekend going?
It's going well, Rob. We've got Survivors coming up. We got the Circle in motion. That's and Big Brother, we're winding down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Couple more weeks to go, and excited to see how the home stretch is all going to play out. Back with us tonight, very excited to catch up with Geneva Guadalupe. Geneva, how are you?
I am great, Rob. Great. Happy to talk about Big Brother again. It's been a long time, and at this point, this is kind of where we have the second phase of the game, so kind of looking forward to deep diving into it, but otherwise loving all the other reality TV that is out there and all the stuff we have coming in the fall.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about other shows if the panel would prefer it tonight. Let's
do it.
Yeah.
We're side tabling Big Brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about the Circle. We could talk.
You guys watch Clickbait on Netflix? I just finished it. It was weird.
Yeah. I started it. I haven't finished it. I need to finish it this week, though.
All right. Well, Geneva, good to have you back here with us. And of course, back with us from the wrestling wrap up, it is the great Mari Forth. Mari, how are you?
I'm just here so I won't get fined. A happy beginning of the football season. I have contractually obligated to talk about this episode. Don't ask me anything else about the feeds or anything else. It's been a tough weekend. My girl's in trouble. But I came here. I watched the show. Let's talk about it.
Thank you for your sacrifice. All right. So we will get into everything here tonight. We'll get into your questions as well here on a Sunday night. And then on Monday, I'll be back with the slop, 8 p.m. Eastern for the patrons of Rob's podcast, getting into all of the nonsense from the world of the Big Brother. And Lita Brillman will join me on the slop on Monday nights. If you see slop happening, send it our way. robisawebsite.com/get sloppy. All right. So we got our Kylan HOH, watched a very long competition go on and on and on. Wow.
Yes. Rob, I think it's still going. I think I passed out in the middle of it, and this is a dream.
Yeah.
Oh, and then it wouldn't have been so long if all of them had watched Peridium's Big Brother Hacked Competitions video. We could have got out of here quick, fast, in a hurry. But apparently, the shaking of the eggs. You got to shake the egg before you roll it down the ramp so that your egg won't be wobbly. Jackson did it in BB21.
Break up that
Peridium. Yep, Peridium correctly put it in a Big Brother Hacked Competition video. I love shouting out Peridium's videos, and that's all I could think of. I was like, somebody shake the egg.
Yeah, we saw a little bit too much of Derek F talking to the eggs and getting them ready for the runway and a lot of other weird stuff. And they just showed so many montages of people dropping the eggs, which I don't think we had to spend so much time on. But nonetheless, there's less people in the house, so I guess there's less, things to show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a weird segment when Derek F was talking to the eggs like they were runway models. Like, Mari, what is this universe where Derek F talks has to hype up runway models to go out there?
I don't know. Maybe in his mind, he's a New York Fashion Week judge or something. We just had that. Maybe he feels that that's in the air. Maybe he's missing some of that. But I mean, whatever he did was kind of working. He almost won there. So I mean, The
Getting
ends
close.
and the means.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about it from tonight. All right. Well, I guess let's start with the positive here. We got to see the cookout celebration a little bit more. Of course, we talked about it on Thursday night, but we got to see all of the house guests that are remaining talk about the significance of the cookout, and this was at least a nice moment in the episode tonight.
Yeah, it was. I feel like we didn't get like any Azza tonight, really.
Yeah.
Like just her dropping the eggs after she does have really nice nimble fingers. But like we didn't get anything from her point of view. This just kind of felt like they were like, oh yeah, this Tiffany downfall, it's coming, y'all. And it was just kind of, I was like, dang it. You know, I love the celebration though. Sorry, let me go back to the celebration. I really love the celebration. It was all happy for like 2 seconds. Kylan just not happy, so it ruined the happy.
It was a cool moment, for me at least. I mean, and it felt powerful because you got to watch them accomplish the goal that they set out to make, and you get to see again just like how excited they are to achieve this goal. They set out to make a statement. I feel like people are paying attention to the statement that's being made. It has started conversations, not always good ones, because not everybody is bringing the best intentions, I think, to the conversations. But I think that what they did is really impressive on a scale that is outside of the game. And it was cool to have a moment for them in the episode. I do still, and this is something we've talked about, I wish that they focused a little more on this, especially considering how long we spent on the HOH competition where there was a man dressed up in a chicken suit. And I feel like, this is creating real social commentary that people are talking about outside of the game. And this is like the best moment to talk about it in a real way and let them tell their stories and let them explain what they're doing and why it means so much to them. And instead, we just really needed to see that chicken. So
yeah, that's a great point. I don't know why we didn't spend more time on this when that from the live feed update on Friday, you said that there was a lot of talk about the house guests talking about this on Thursday night, Taran.
Yeah, a lot of talk about it, and and again, this is something that we've talked about before on the podcast, but like feels like they don't really want to dive in too deep because, one of the core parts of this message is how messed up things have been on the show. And I don't know if they want to dwell on that too much.
Yeah. And that's the only reason why I brought up Azza not being like given, like, why didn't they give everybody that whole, like, oh, this is what it, it's meant for this. They had Tiffany do it. They had Hannah do it. Then you got basically Xavier and Big D being like, yes, this is historic. Okay, now let's go. Like the game has finally begun. Like we didn't get to like sit in that moment long enough. And then, like I said, Kylan, we moved on really quickly because, Kylan was very upset about going on the block during the double. So it just, I agree. We didn't get to breathe in it, but I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I felt like that Xavier then was the one to lead that conversation, saying like, "Hey, we made it. The 6 of us are here. Doesn't matter who wins. We're all winners." I feel like that the person that's saying that is the person that thinks they're in the best spot.
Yeah,
I mean that was essentially the this is a huge accomplishment in Big Brother. That's what I was waiting for on Thursday night.
Yeah, he's hoping that person is him, definitely. That's for sure. But I do think also, just in general, I think considering how different I think all 6 of them are from each other, they all have all these different sort of motivations with how to play the game. And the fact that they were still able to stick together as a solid 6 and achieve their mission and goal, especially with how the double eviction went and basically getting Alyssa out of the house and trying to keep appearances, as I'm sure, is delved into more in this episode. I do think that it is something important and impressive to highlight, especially considering it hasn't been done before.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to flash back to the replacement nominee, where that we needed somebody to go up on the block, and Kylan wasn't happy that he was the person who was chosen to go up on the block. And he was upset because he felt like that people were considering appearances from Alyssa's perspective, but nobody was considering how Kylan was feeling about going up on the block. Mari, when are people going to start considering Kylan's feelings?
The funny thing is, I mean, that's all Tiffany considered. Like, Tiffany grabbed him like as soon as, you know, the noms were had, and she said one little thing like, oh, you know, it's for appearances, but she was clearly checking in on him, but he harped on that, like, oh, so now y'all have to play a game with Alyssa. Alyssa needs to think a certain way. I mean, that was Hannah's. Like, Hannah really did do that, and I agree. I don't think that was the smartest thing to do. I really don't understand why you try and keep the ruse going while they're out the door, because if you're any fan of the game, you should know that by the time they're going out the door, nobody really wants to still be lied to. So, I mean, I agreed with him on that. I don't think they should have did all of that just to keep Alyssa placated for the 2 seconds that she was on the block. But when he's talking to Tiffany in this segment, Tiffany had nothing to do with that. Tiffany tried to keep him off the block, and she was legit. You could tell. I mean, maybe I'm just, biased, but it really looked like she was trying to comfort him, but he was just like harping on the little stuff.
Why did it have to be Kylan?
Yeah, I mean, she was pulling him aside because she knew that his ego would be bruised by the fact that he was going up on the block and not somebody else. And she knew that. She told Hannah, don't do this. So she pulled him aside because she could tell that his ego was flaring up. And then in order to satiate his ego, was like, it's just for appearances. It's nothing to do. I'm not concerned about you. You're perfect, Kylan. What is appearances then? Oh, what's the problem with appearances? It's nothing to do with it. I just care about you, Kylan. I just want you to be happy. Just what do you want to be happy? I want you to have listened to me in the past is what I want you to do. That's what I would like for you to have done. Yeah. Didn't work out.
No, more on that to come. We're going to see also Tiffany with Xavier and Geneva. We're going to see, Tiffany is at least trying to put her best foot forward with Xavier, even if Xavier feels like she's just buttering his biscuits.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess at this point, it's you kind of got to check in with the people, got to see what's happening. I mean, last week, we all know that Xavier was very upset at what went down by Tiffany winning HOH again, and basically kind of supposedly ruining the plan. And I get that people were upset about that, and Tiffany knows that people are upset about that, but he's like, oh, well, at the end of the day, you kept your word and Claire went home and the mission still happened. And so for that, maybe things should be okay, right? But in reality, he knows like he needs to come for Tiffany for his game because she is probably like the biggest threat that he has to deal with at this point. And of course, Tiffany wants to do damage control to make sure that she can get him first before he gets her. But that's kind of what the huge battle is at this point, because they kind of are known as the biggest threats. Everyone was saying during the double eviction, oh, X is going to win this game, as Claire left and went out the door. So it's kind of got to this point where it's like, we need to say, okay, are we all right? Checking in, because at this point, a lot has gone down and we've seen that Xavier was not happy about this whole entire situation.
Yes, that much is for certain. Taran, did you feel like that Tiffany did enough here to try to get in Xavier's good graces after this? Because I feel like that they just started recognizing, well, everybody in the house is a threat by the end of the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Tiffany has done enough in general with Xavier. In terms of like how this was edited, this to me felt like the editors they're like, okay, time to choose a side. And we are siding with Xavier because he is looking pretty good here. Looking like he might be our winner, and it's time to start getting people on board with that. And so, giving him this perspective of hearing from Tiffany first, I'm going after Xavier. I'm feeding him BS, but I'm going after him. And then a response from him, I know she's trying to butter my biscuit. I'm not going to let her. I'm going to take her out because she's the biggest threat to my game. Sort of ignoring the fact that he started targeting her prior to him thinking she was a threat to his game, when he still thought that she was fully loyal to him. Just wanted to retaliate because she was being selfish. But in response to your question, no, I don't think that Tiffany has done enough here either. I think that Tiffany really did drop the ball ultimately when it came to her relationships with both Kylan and Xavier in this final stretch here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry, Rob. I just wanted to say again, I being on the episode recap that Thursday when she won her second HOH, like looking back now, I just feel like it's that GIF or whatever of, oh baby, you have a big storm coming, because honestly, I think that's literally where she went wrong. If Tiffany had never won that second HOH, I really don't think we'd be talking, we'd be gearing up for Tiffany's funeral. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's just so unfortunate because that plan that they are using to say that she went back on to prove her disloyal, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Taran, none of us knew it going into it. So we thought, oh, okay, Tiffany wins, doesn't matter. Like, we also thought that everybody hated Kylan, so it was okay that she took it over Kylan. But I mean, dang, it sucks. Hindsight is 2020.
Wow.
And it only took her like that one huge slip up for these players to like really take advantage of it. And I think that just goes to show, like, no matter what, that these are great players in and of themselves. Like the cookout itself it's the greatest Big Brother alliance of all time. They're the only alliance to make it to the final 6, having all of their members intact. But it's also because they had good players in it. You know what I'm saying? So it was just unfortunate. But this episode I agree with Taran. Like, they were like, okay, let's go all in on Xavier.
I just think that's wild. Going back to that one HOH competition, if we can go back to you and Taran and AJ on the podcast last Thursday night, you're like, wow, what a great night for Tiffany.
Yeah, just shooting the breeze.
I was like, oh, I'm going to win the draft again. This is going to be awesome. I'm so excited.
Taran was a little cautious, but we were just joking around, me and AJ.
Yeah.
It's too, because a lot of people talking about, because I do think that Tiffany has dropped the ball here in the end, and winning that HOH was the start of it. I do think there was a way that she could have played that and still, come away successful. She did not have that in her. But I mean, from my perspective, it's really, again, like this is the path that she chose. She chose to go to the end with some of the most difficult people for her to work in the end. And surprisingly to me, she did even better than I thought she would for a little while there until she then dropped it all. For me, it's not like, oh, she had such a great and easy path and then screwed it all up out of nowhere. It was more that she was like carrying a bunch of different things and taking on a ton of difficulty, and then eventually crumbled.
I'm not even going to blame Tiffany because it's not her fault. You know whose fault it is? It's the coin of destiny. Destiny. If it wasn't for the coin of destiny, then she couldn't have been HOH 2 times in a row. Taran, the twist did this.
The twist did it.
Tiffany was twist screwed. No.
And if it wasn't for Tiffany winning HOH that week, then Claire would have probably done completely different noms. She was trying to respect, the HOH. So maybe we would have had a different final 6. Who knows?
What
All
ifs?
Right. What if? Okay. Well, so let's go to Kylan and Xavier. Geneva, let's talk about the gentleman. Final 2 deal. Xavier and Kylan. It's here.
Yeah, the gentleman. I think they know that they are both 2 huge physical threats, and it is especially, I think, in their best interest to work together. I think you know, X knows, especially considering if they get to an HOH competition and if Kylan wins, then this could, you know, serve him well because X is a big threat. He came out of the double being a huge threat and on people's radar, even regardless of social situations, because of course, even despite being a big threat, people are still working with X. But, you know, X wants to make sure that he's okay. And Kai really knows that he's all about going to the end with the best competitor. But to me, I'm just like, if you want to win the game, you want to win the $750,000. I don't think, you know, I think it's a little risky to do that. I think that it's been shown, and a lot of people have said, you know, if Axe makes the end, he'll probably win. So, I mean, what are you going to do in this game, Kylan, to show people that your game is stronger than his? So at this point, I'm just kind of like, I don't really know. Like, if you really want to win this game, Kylan, I don't think this is necessarily the best for your game, but it's good to also not have X coming for you in case something happens.
Mari, what's your take on this new tag team, the Gentlemen?
I mean, it's just ridiculous because it's based in the delusion of Kai's head that him and Xavier are Cody and Derek and that they're going to take each other to the end and battle it out, when I just don't see Xavier doing that, not when he has so many options. But even that, I'm like, okay, fine, sure. Okay, say you want to protect X, use X as like your mutual shields. Okay, fine. But why aren't you trying to thin out his side at the very least? You know what I'm saying? Especially since it feels like it's been abundantly clear that like Big D and Azza are like so on Xavier's side. Like, why wouldn't you at least try to thin out his herd so that he's kind of forced to take you? So that's why I'm like, okay, Kylan, okay, say you made this pact, you won't go after Xavier. Don't go after Xavier. But why would you put up two people who have said they wouldn't come after you? Now, I do get that Hannah put him on the block during the double, and he says he couldn't trust what Tiffany says. But if the whole house is telling you, oh, I want Tiffany gone, I need Tiffany gone, she would be my target, and Tiffany is telling you she's not going to target you, if you get rid of Tiffany, who is now the target? Like, why aren't you thinking that? Like, there's 6 of you. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you get out the house target, who is the house going to come after next? And that's the biggest, like, complaint I have about this gentleman's agreement or whatever. You know, Kai is okay accepting a final 2 with Xavier the hour before the HOH, but won't trust, you know, what, you know, Tiffany and Hannah have said for weeks and weeks now. So it's whatever. It's Kai's bed that he may have to lay in just as soon as Thursday.
I think Tiffany actually has a pretty good explanation for this.
Kai is the smartest idiot I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah. It's I think probably that Kylan thinks that he needs to protect Xavier from Tiffany and Hannah. And in a way, he's kind of right, because he is unable to protect him from them via his manipulation skills. And so he needs to do everything in his power to keep Xavier safe so that he will be available when he takes him to the end.
Yeah. But who's going to take you to the end, Kylan? Who? Because again, I'm still not convinced that it's Xavier.
I don't know. This whole thing stinks. I don't. It just came up out of nowhere. Geneva, that I'm blindsided by this whole Kylan wanted to target Tiffany thing.
It's tough. You know, I think he's gotten to a point where he feels like he can't fully trust her because, you know, in some ways, I guess, like, you know, Tiffany early in the game, she was like considering targeting him. But it's just kind of tough for me here because I just feel like working with Tiffany is probably one of the better moves for his game to get him further, because I really do feel like he realistically will probably be the target at 5. Or if he's not the target at 5, like he's not going to be brought to the end. And even if he makes it to the end, I just don't see really, you know, I don't see the other side really prioritizing him. I don't see Big D. I don't see Azza prioritizing him. So targeting the 2 people who made a deal with you before the HOH and said they literally were like, we need you. Like, we need you. Like, you are, you know, kind of our life or death in this game. And and he's like, okay, well, I'm going to get rid of you. But then he doesn't necessarily have assurance from like the others. I just think that it's just disappointing because, you know, I feel like Tiffany knew that she needed Kylan and she's tried to make it clear at this point. But, you know, I think they've had a lot of, I think, issues. So I think that's probably also in the back of his mind. And he does acknowledge that Tiffany is a strong competitor later on in the episode. But I'm also like, okay, so then you should bring her further if you think she's a strong competitor, like X is a strong competitor.
I think he feels disrespected by the women when they tell him he can't beat Xavier. I think he genuinely is upset when that happens. And that's why he doubles down and says, no, I want to go to the end with Xavier and watch me beat him or lose to him. But if I lose to him, then it's only because I'm such an honorable guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I hate that, like, Claire said it to him last week as well. Like, you don't need to go to the end in final 2 to beat Xavier. You're the HOH right now. If you got Xavier out on your week right now, you could say you beat Xavier, like, and be one step closer to the end. It's just kind of funny. And I get, like, a lot of people are saying, like, you know, oh, but Kylan and the girls, everybody was saying that they were going to come after Kylan at final 6. Yeah, they did say that 2 weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? And now the game is shifted. It is in Kylan's hands. And not only is, again, I still think if he wants to keep Xavier around, I get that. But why isn't he going after, say, even Azah? Like, I don't understand how Azah isn't on the block this week when she's told him multiple times to his face, like, I am coming after you. You know, I wouldn't want Azah to go either, but it just doesn't, it's just kind of funny to me that it's all of a sudden he just kind of forgets the people who were out in the open coming against him. And at the very least, okay, you want to target Tiffany for being a good player. Why put Hannah in danger as well? Because Hannah made some really good points that I'm pretty sure we'll get to, that I think if in the danger of you losing Tiffany or you're targeting Tiffany, you would want to try and pull Hannah in as well. And it's just, I mean, this is what we're going to be talking about because this is what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for the battle at the 6. And to me, it's just also not computing because we also know that the final 3 that Xavier and Big D and Azah have made, so which they haven't brought up in the episode. So it's just kind of like it just doesn't make sense to me for Kylan to be doing this. I really feel like he could have put up Tiffany and Xavier right next to each other, and I feel like that would have been a better move than what he did right here. But I don't know. That's just me. Sorry.
You know, it was rumored in the house that maybe that America's secret couple was Kylan and Sarabeth. Is it possible that the secret pair was Kylan and Xavier, and Kylan gets a bonus if he goes to the end with Xavier?
No.
No.
Kylan even says, he's like, you know, the difference between the difference between me and Xavier and Derek and Cody is that Derek and Cody were working together from the start. Xavier and myself, we barely talked until recently. We've been playing completely separate games. So, I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, just wow.
Let's talk about how Kylan became the HOH. Let's talk about one of the most bizarre things that I feel like we've seen. You know, we've had this chicken coop the competition, you know, almost every season of Big Brother. And I guess because it was a comic book week. Boy, how do we make the chicken coop challenge fit for comic book week? We need to invent a new BB supervillain, and his name is the Cluckster.
You're all out of cluck! Now that I've trapped you in my electromagnetic cages, I've hatched an extremely maniacal plan! I'm going to turn all 5 of you into chickens at the stroke of midnight.
Okay. Mari, what do you think about the Cluckster?
Rob, stop. I told you I'm already in a bad mood this weekend. I have not visited the feeds. Why did they do this to us? I am just like, they're going all in on comic book week. They ham-fisted a villain in there. He was here for a second, gone too soon. I don't know. I don't know. What are they doing? I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Is anyone on production younger than 50? Like, I just feel like they don't understand. Like, in the last 20 years, comics have they've kind of advanced a bit beyond this very chalky, campy man in a chicken suit, talking about at the stroke of midnight. Like, that's straight out of like the 70s for comic books here. And I don't know if they know that at this time. I don't there's not one like intern that can be like, I don't know if this tracks the same as it maybe would have, 3 decades ago.
Maybe they haven't looked at comic books since the 70s. That could be it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but Geneva, it's just so wild to me that the show, at times can be, like a very a serious show where we're talking about how we have our first all black final 6, and all of like the positive things we're talking about, and then in the same hour, there's a man in a chicken costume that's yelling at everybody, making all these egg puns, and is going to turn everybody into chickens, and then tells us he's going to leave because...
Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some plucking to do.
Rob, I don't know with Big Brother sometimes. I think maybe they're trying to cater to different audiences, give some comedic moments, give some dramatic moments, give some intense moments. They want us to expect the unexpected and give us different things.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think, I'm sure probably even the house guests are wondering, like, why are we doing this? Why is this a thing? Like, also, I don't know, because I think sometimes it seems like Big Brother wants to make themselves a family show, but I don't really understand really realistically how too much it's a family show, especially with the elements of the feeds and just like all that sort of stuff. And so I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't get it, but
yeah,
they're trying.
Rob, I need to. Did Dominic watch? No, you know episode? What? That because of football, it started up too late. It's a school night tomorrow, so he'll watch it tomorrow.
We need a Dominic review because that is so clearly the target audience that we need to know if it lands.
Yeah, you know what? Not for anything like, oh, okay, like, oh, Big Brother. That's a show that you are supposed to watch with little kids, but then. Don't show Derek F like yelling out the B word. Like, it's bad enough when he was calling Tiffany the B word earlier in the season, but also like he's like, don't show him like yelling out the B word randomly. Also, if it's a family show.
Yeah. And it was like that chicken costume too. It's like they just like, oh, quick, grab something in the back. Like it wasn't even like high tech or kind of like when they had all the alumni come back for BB Comics in real life and they had all those cool super suits. Yep. Like it wasn't even that. It was like really cheap with the face paint. It was just bad.
Oh boy. Okay. So the Cluckster is here to set this up, and we have our egg wire competition, and it goes on and on and on. I guess they broke this up. We did a flashback to Tiffany's final 3 with Kylan and Hannah, and Mara, to speak to your point earlier of like for Kylan, he kind of has like 2 paths that he could go down. Like, why put up one of his final 3s on the block here at the final 6?
Yeah, this was actually the day I was on the update, if I remember correctly, too. The insurance policy, Tiffany and Hannah explaining why they need Kai. And I at first, when I first watched it, I thought, okay, they're explaining it to him in a logical way that that self-interested way. So he'll know that we are so self-interested that keeping you around is why we would, keep you around. But for some reason, he still, I don't know how he took that. Like, I feel like he did feel like he was disrespected in some sort of way, especially when they showed this clip too. It was just like, they're like, we need you. If we don't have you, then our games are tanked. And I really thought that Tiffany thought that would stroke his ego, but maybe it did the opposite for him. I don't know. Again, I just can't get into Kylan's mind, guys. I really can't. I'm trying really hard here, but I can't.
It was a really strange thing to include, it feels, because it had no relevance in the game. Kylan immediately ratted it out the following morning. In like the whole episode to me, from Kylan's perspective, made no sense. Like, I could not follow what they were trying to tell me about Kylan. And I feel like I did not. Usually, they take very complicated reasons for nominations and they like whittle it down into something very like maybe not entirely the truth, but like, here's a very simple reason why this happened. And I feel like they took a reasonably simple, maybe complex in terms of like trying to describe Kylan's ego, but like a relatively simple path for Kylan nominating Tiffany. And they made it so convoluted in terms of like, well, he's got a Final 2 deal here and a Final 3 deal here, but he wants to go to the end with competitors, but he does see Tiffany as a competitor. And ultimately, he nominated her because he doesn't trust her. What? What are we doing?
Yeah, the narrative didn't make any sense at all. I think it was confusing storytelling. And I don't know if they were showing that because in a sense, like, sometimes people aren't sure really where Kylan's head is at. And so they kind of wanted to, like kind of amplify that within the edit. But even so, I just feel like for the viewers, that's confusing. I think they should have a clear sense of what's going on and what he's thinking and what is going to happen. But I guess they just wanted to show like a variety of different things, maybe to show in some ways, like, even despite this, Final 3, they ended up on the block. And I'm also wondering too, if like, even like Kylan thinks that maybe Tiff and Hannah are a little bit weaker players, which is maybe why he put them on the block, I guess, because he wants to go to the end with the strongest players. But, we know that he thinks Tiffany's a strong player. So it's just ultimately really confusing. I don't know why they chose to tell the story this way.
Well, isn't it really confusing though? Like, I mean, I feel like the show's just trying to give us something to explain. Like, I guess this is why he did it, but I have to think that the production is furious that this was what Kylan came up with for the nominations,
and that all he probably gives them in the diary room is, "She should have trusted me." Trusted you? How exactly? Like, what exactly were you looking for? Well, when she won that HOH. Okay. So what about that? Yeah, I mean, that just shows she didn't trust me. So, okay. And so that's why you're evicting her. Oh no, I'm evicting her because I need to go to the end with Xavier, who's the best, is the biggest threat. So she's not the biggest threat. Well, I mean, she is a threat. Okay, so. Are there anybody else? Is anybody else in the house that you don't trust? Oh no, I don't trust anybody in this house. Okay, so why? So what is it specifically about Tiffany? Well, it's just that her biggest mistake in the game was when she stopped trusting me. And it's like,
yeah,
but like probably the whole time he's like, guys, am I sounding sad enough? This is just really hard.
Oh no. And again, I get it. Like I said, Hannah and Tiffany have like kind of broken trust with him along the way. They bruised his ego all the way. But to me, at this point, it just feels like it doesn't matter, because how are you staring at Xavier, Big D, and Azah, and you know that Big D and Azah are tight? Like, Kylan knows this. He had his like. Well, anyways, Kylan knows this. I'll get into the spoilers later. But like, Big D and Azah are clearly a pair. Azah is clearly in love with Xavier. He knows that Xavier and Big D are working together. It looks like a wall of 3 over there to me. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm just kind of like, it doesn't matter if you have 3 strong versus the 2 strong. If you don't want to be in that 3 strong with Tiffany and Hannah, you have to. I really feel like you have to break up that block. But again, his ego he really feels like he's in the best position in the house. Like no matter how many times people tell him that X is, he feels like he is, and he doesn't understand. Like you're not, if you're gonna get out the person that everybody else wants out, like with just so few people remaining. And I'll just wait till we get to Hannah's part, because I thought she did a great job. The episode had to condense it, but I thought Hannah did the best job of speaking to Kylan with way more logical arguments. But I think the problem was, I think she went last.
Mm-hmm. Well, just talking through the rest of the competition, Taran, I'm surprised Azah didn't do better at this, because I feel like that going back to the olive martini wild card comp, I feel like that if there's one thing Azah can do, it's roll the thing real slow down the ramp.
The problem is getting it anywhere, Rob. I mean, she can roll it really slow down the ramp for like a few inches, but she cannot go much further.
I guess
she can try to will it that way, but she didn't shake the egg. So
yeah. Geneva, for Derek F, he's going to come up short again, and he really would like to win something.
Yeah, I think he's gotten to the point where he realizes within the final 6, as we know, and Azah have not won anything. And even though I think social strategy is important, I think he realizes that people don't see him as a threat. People see him someone as to carry. They don't really look at him as dangerous in the game. And, I think jury perception as well as perception of the players is also important, especially when you get to final 2 and how people view how you played the game. But he feels like he needs to win a comp to show that he's a serious competitor. And it's very frustrating for him to have gone week after week after week and not win anything. And even when there have been moments where people have wanted to throw things to him, it hasn't worked out. And like, even we saw Kylan really was like, if Derek F could win, like, then I'll let it happen. But then even then, Kylan was like, I can't throw it at this point, so I'm just gonna finish this competition. So in a sense, I get why Derek F, feels upset, because I think people in some ways may not take him as seriously as a competitor. But of course, in order for him, to feel that sort of agency as a player, he wants to have a competition win and be able to make a move.
Yeah, so win something.
I want to be a threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me be a threat, guys. Be threatened by me.
You're going to throw this one to me, right? You're going to throw this one to me, right? Why? What if I throw you anything?
Rob, he masterminded this entire game. Show some respect for the name.
Yeah, if he orchestrated everything with the cookout, then he shouldn't need to win any comps, right? He shouldn't need to have any HOAs, right?
Well, but because people are dumb and they only respect competition wins, and they're probably not going to see all of the incredible work that he did all season long, he's going to lose to an uninformed jury that just only cares about comp wins.
All right, I guess so.
I know, it's like
justice for big.
Maybe
we're heading for disaster.
Yeah, and anybody can win a competition down the stretch. Like anybody can win it. He just has to try.
Yeah, and he's been in these last couple. To be fair, but stop complaining about not winning anything and just win something. Enough. Enough, Big D. All right, let's get to the guy who did win the HOH competition. I got a tweet earlier tonight from that somebody BY Robot on Twitter asked me, did Kylan's past expertise with egg pricing help him win this competition?
He knew the value of each individual egg had it been acquired by McDonald's. So it really gave him extra incentive.
Yes. He knows how much it costs with a sausage McMuffin, in a dozen eggs. So Kylan is very familiar with eggs. He wins the HOH, and all right, he whacked himself in the face with it.
with the key. Yeah. Kylan wins HOH.
You meant metaphorically, right?
I mean,
Not just.
Yeah.
Kylan wins HOH, of course, because he knows the value of an egg. But I really wonder again, because before the feeds came back on, it was like, was he really supposed to throw this to Big D? Or because we know Kylan can't throw competitions, really, but he made it. They made this episode made it seem like he was like, oh, Big D's kind of close. Let me see what happens with him. He's not doing it, so let me just get it. I don't know. Kylan always wants to win everything that he can win, and if he does somehow make it to the final two, then he does have a good like comp resume, which is what Big D is worried about. But I don't see him making it here. But great,
Yeah.
yay! Kylan's HOH, a third Kylan HOH. We all wanted to see it.
He wins the HOH, and then Geneva, they go inside, and then he's like I've never seen anybody in the Big Brother house ever like laid out on the kitchen counter like it's like an alien autopsy.
Yeah, I guess he was very, very tired from that whole competition. I'm not really sure what was up with lying on the kitchen counter, but that's just how he celebrates, I guess. And of course we saw Tiff come up to him and hope that things are okay, knows he has to make a potentially big move. But yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because I kind of like what Mari was saying with the whole like, was he going to like throw it or whatever? And it's like, even if necessarily he didn't have to throw it to Big D, it is kind of weird in a sense. He would want to take the HOH in a sense because he does have this final two with X and does have this final three with Tiff and Chana. But I also know that like he's not necessarily in the best spot in the world, and of course he was very upset with being on the block, so he also probably wanted to win. And we know Kylan loves to win. But I think I don't know why he was lying there, but that's I guess he instead of going the HOH bed wasn't ready yet, so he decided to lie on
the counter.
I think I'm catching what you're putting down here, Rob. I think what you're saying is that had they tried to cut into him at all, an alien would have burst from his chest, and it would have explained a lot, I think. Right?
Or, hear me out, would he have been cake?
Yeah.
I mean, that was going around. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
Was Kylan, the twist is Kylan was cake all along.
Yeah.
Outwardly sweet, but really bad for you. You take
there you go.
Of a dose.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna start to see everybody have some talks with Kylan. Tiffany and Hannah, they feel very good. Geneva, they're not gonna see the block this week.
Overall they feel okay, but they're still, I think, in the corner of their mind, they are thinking about that double eviction and hoping that things are all right. And they tried, of course, reemphasize that they're all about their commitment. They're about that final three deal that they made. And of course, Kylan really uses this as an opportunity to just gather more and more information. Wants to know, who people's plans are, who they, want. And that's also why Kylan loves to be HOH, because he gets all the information. And when he's not HOH, he doesn't have all the information. So he gets all of that, important info. But of course, Tiffany does talk about X and how X is a threat, and mentions even like, if Claire's even going to mention how X is a threat and how people will vote for X, like, he is a huge shot. But then, of course, Kylan's like, yeah, I know X is a insane competitor and he hasn't really been showing his full potential. And, Tiff is also an incredible competitor, but I guess that's not enough for Kylan.
Yeah. What was he trying to say there? Xavier is an insane competitor. He says anybody sitting next to him will have an uphill battle, and Tiffany would also be hard to beat.
I think that they took that in a different context. They displayed it in a different context than what he was probably talking about. He was probably in that context, saying, you know, he was probably describing why he was choosing Xavier over Tiffany, saying Xavier, you know, he is good in competitions. Maybe he hasn't won many. He hasn't won. I don't think he has won as many as Tiffany, even potentially. But Xavier has been throwing a lot of competitions. He has untapped potential in these things. I think that ultimately Xavier is a better competitor. You know, and Tiffany's a good competitor as well. But Xavier is the better competitor, and that's why I'm targeting Tiffany.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that logic.
I don't either. I don't. Again, I still don't. And it to me, like, again, leave the both of them in there and let them shoot at each other so that you're not in the crossfire. So if you're not going to put them both up to get rid of either one of the threats, leave them both in there and like put up.
Kylan has to be in control. It's Kylan has to be the one that decides. He has to be the one that brings the person to the. That's like Kylan is perfectly okay losing the game as long as it's within his control, that he made it happen. It's the last thing he wants to do is just throw two people up and be like, "You guys decide. I don't want to do anything to do with it."
Yeah, and he wants to. He's okay with losing to Xavier, but he's not okay losing to Tiffany or Hannah. So like that's really all it boils down to. He doesn't want to be Paul versus Josh, you know, versus Nicole.
He doesn't want to be Paul versus Nicole.
Yeah, Paul. You're right. Paul
He'd be a little more
Nicole.
okay with Paul versus Josh.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really all it is, and it's fine if that ends up being his downfall. Then that's what's gonna happen, because other than that, nothing's making sense.
Well, not to be too much of an amateur psychologist, but what is the issue? He doesn't want to lose to a woman?
He has said on numerous occasions that he does not want to lose to a woman. He does not want to go to the end with a woman. There's a women majority on the jury. He has not said anything of the like recently, but conveniently, he happens to only not respect the women's games and only respect the games of the men, who he now deems are worthy of sitting next to him in the final two and worthy of a loss. It would be not a respectable loss to lose to any one of the happen to be women in the game.
But just devil's advocate here, like if he went to the end and lost to Tiffany, then couldn't he say that? Like, wouldn't it be easier for him to say, like, well, I would have won, but the jury wanted a woman to win the game, as opposed to going to the end with the Xavier, and he has to say, like, well, Xavier was the better player. That's obviously why I lost.
Well, that's, again, it's not respectable to lose to a woman because it was a woman, because she was a woman. It's respectable to take the best, the gentleman to the end, in their gentleman's agreement. Apparently. Yeah.
Misogyny. That's the word you're looking for there, Rob. Misogyny.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, going back to the gentleman, that they are going to talk, and Xavier says, Tiffany, gotta target Tiffany, Tiffany and Hannah. That's going to be the plan. And so Xavier can't believe his luck, Mari. Timing is everything. The guy, he just made a final two. This guy, and now he's HOH.
And this is why I really want to PR from Xavier, because I want to know. I mean, we got it, but something felt unsaid. You know, but it did feel like Xavier's playing him. And maybe that's just me, but he was like, "Oh yeah, what the luck," you know. And if anything, this is the best move that Xavier has done, except Kylan's craziness. You know what I'm saying? Like except Kylan's like whole. Yes, Derek and Cody. He just sat there and just let it happen. And he dictated Kylan's moves. Like, they went into that little hall. Xavier barely said congratulations, and then Kai was like, "Well, what's the move?" And Xavier said, Tiffany and Hannah. And Kai was like, yes, Tiffany and Hannah, because I thought that up, not Xavier, not the greatest player.
That was the plan even before talking to Xavier.
Yeah, I know, but it's just funny. It just, at least on the edit, it does make it look like Xavier is running Kylan's game right now.
Yeah, and we get this diary room from Xavier, like everything worked out perfectly. I just made this final 2 with Kylan. Like he had anything to do with Kylan and his inane plan to bring the best competitor to the end. Like he had anything to do with everybody in the house saying that he's playing the best game because they wanted him targeted while he thinks that he's completely under the radar. Like he had anything to do with any of that. Like, oh man, I love this game. This is really working out really well for me that I'm doing all this stuff.
I'm trying. People are screaming that X isn't getting the credit that he deserves. I mean, I said that he is taking advantage of a very easy path, and I think that's what he's doing here. When I want a DR saying who he would actually take to the final 2, because again, it has to be Big D. I'm thinking it's his actual final 2. That's what I would guess, because Oz already said that, you know, if they got to the final 3, she'd be fine to bow out gracefully.
I mean, for as much as it seems like, because on the outside, it seems like surely Xavier must be manipulating Kylan, because Kylan is doing all of these things that don't make sense for his own game. But if you actually see what's happening, if you're actually looking at what's happening, you're seeing that Kylan is actually the one driving this. He's the one making the decision to go to the end in the way that he wants to go to the end. And he has actually been dragging X in line with what he wants. Xavier seems to want Kylan in the final 3. And he says as much in the diary room here in this episode that he's like, this is cool. I like this idea. And I'm going to make the gentleman. Yes, I love the gentleman. Xavier, who just 2 weeks ago wanted Kai gone at 6. You know, like directly Kai's work with him has changed Xavier's mind on what his end game looks like.
Yeah, I mean, Xavier does say in the episode that, like, hey, look, it's at this point in the game, it's better to have people, you know, wanting to work with you than work against you. So he definitely is not against the idea, but you know, hard to say that this is like his favorite plan that's out there.
Yeah,
I mean, it seems to be the one he wants. It seems based on his conversation with his conversations with Big D that he actively would like for Azza to leave before Kylan, and that he would like to get to at least the final 3 with Kylan.
Okay, let's talk about that conversation that Kylan has with Hannah. Mari, you mentioned it earlier, but Hannah seems to have a really good read on Kylan.
Yes, and I love that they put that in the episodes, because I think this is at least like the 3rd time they've given Hannah these diary rooms where she's explaining her moves as they show the footage of it. I really love that, and she really does have Kylan like nailed to a peg with the whole like the ego stroking. He likes to know that you're giving up as much information, and like I said, they only showed the quick part in the episode there, but she did a great job in her one-on-one with him, and it just really does suck that she was like one of the last people to talk to him. His mind was already set in stone. Everything was already in motion, but she brought up so many really good logical points for him to think about. Like I said, Tiffany really harped on the whole trying to get X out. Once she realized that Kylan didn't want to get X out, she never changed her tactic as to an alternate plan. Meanwhile, Hannah did everything she can to try and keep herself off the block using the votes, telling Kylan at this point it's just winning no matter what. Even if me and you work together and you win something, if I don't win something, I might be in jeopardy of going home. Hannah made so many really, really just good logical points about the end game of Big Brother that it really sucks that it couldn't have saved her from at least going on the block this week.
Yeah, and Geneva, Hannah also identifies that this is like a loyalty test from Kylan about how am I going to stay loyal to Tiffany in this conversation.
Yeah, and I think it gets down to the point of whether it's like who is being prioritized in terms of for who can Kylan trust, because he's already had some difficulties on figuring out who is loyal to him, but also like what is Hannah's objective here? And Hannah picked up quickly like this is a test, like based on how he's questioning me, like this is But then she's like, I'm going to say, like, honestly, like, I know that if I'm sitting next to, like X, Oz, or Big D, I don't know how I would have the votes to stay. And like, I think, that's kind of focused on the whole idea that we know that there's that 3 that's kind of consistently staying together. And really, Kylan's kind of on the other side, but he, in reality, as we see, he targets the 2 people who were like, we are like willing to, work with you. Like, we know that we need you. And that's where I think like this kind of move to nominate, like Tiff and Hannah is really just kind of not necessarily the best move for his game, because also that's the thing is when he moves forward, they have that voting block there that he has to deal with and navigate with. And we don't know for sure really what numbers he really has. Like, even though he has this, the gentleman thing with X, we don't really know like how far it's going to get them. They just made this at basically final 6. So it's like, have they really even established like serious trust building at this point? It's kind of late in the game. So, Kylan does his continuous information gathering and tests Hannah, and, Hannah tries as best as she can to kind of make Kylan think about, well, I know this is this sort of situation. And I know that, like, for me, like, I would probably lose to X, that sort of situation. So she puts all those things on the table for him to think about. But it's like, even though like she offers up these great points, Kylan just thinks otherwise.
Well, Kylan has a big decision to make, Taran. At this point in the game for Kylan, he's got to break promises and even has to break some hearts, including his own.
Hearts will be broken. I think Hannah is kind of like, she's on the trail of it when she says that Kylan is an information gatherer, that he cares about people giving information. I think what she hasn't quite seen is that he doesn't actually care about the information. He only cares about the act of submission by giving the information. By giving it to him, you are that is the test of loyalty. Is, are you doing everything for me? Are you telling me everything? Are you believing everything that I say? Are you within my control? Have I possessed you in this game? And when you're giving him everything, that's when he feels like the most comfortable with you. But even then, him feeling comfortable with you, not necessarily, good for you, because that just means that he's won, not that he wants to keep you.
That's dark.
Yeah.
And we know he doesn't really prioritize Hannah, so it's kind of unfortunate for her.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to our nominations. It's Tiffany and Hannah. For Tiffany, it's simply a loss of trust. That's all it came down to. Loss of trust. Hannah, you're simply the person who's most likely to use the veto. That's what it comes down to. And Xavier is finally not on the block. Our long national nightmare is over, Mari. After 4 weeks in a row, Xavier is not on the block.
In all of the complaining, but something tells me he'll find something else to complain about if he hasn't already. So, yay, Xavier's not on the block anymore. Goody.
Yeah, and Taran, I know you played a clip earlier of Tiffany reading Kylan, but that was like vintage Tiffany to end the episode tonight.
Tiffany was able to explain Kylan in a much more succinct way than I ever could.
He is the smartest idiot I have ever seen in my life.
I mean, that was better than anything the Zingbot had also.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly Kylan's game, is that he is so incredibly effective at being dumb in the game. Like, that's like doing the not good thing. He is like, he's killing it to get Xavier the win. Like that is Kylan in the game.
Yeah. I do think that she could have added a "shut the cluck up, Kylan." That would have been perfect for this HOH.
Shut the up, Kylan.
Yeah.
Yes, and I loved, and I really still love Tiffany's attitude, because like no matter what, like she's on the block, she's still, was hopeful, wants to win the veto, all of that. Like she still sees it as a game. She still doesn't regret her decision to go to the final 6 with the cookout to make history, and I like that. I want them to highlight that for if they could. Could you please highlight that for at least the rest of the week, so you don't like bury her any further? Because I still think she won't be a bitter juror, but who knows? But I think she likes the game too much to really let it affect her like that.
Yeah. And Geneva, I really like the second part of what she said. She said that, what, he doesn't trust me? Well, he's not supposed to know that yet.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to know that I don't trust him and that I'm going to get rid of him if I stay here. So now I have to go ahead and now win him back over, or win that veto.
Yeah, I mean, I love Tiffany's DRs. I mean, she's kind of like, yeah, no, he made a game move, and I get it, but it's like, why did he have to do it? I was hoping that he wouldn't do it. But I think Tiffany has had a general positive outlook, because she knows that like they've achieved the mission, and even though she's done a lot of things that have damaged her game, like sending home a lot of like non-cookout members, she knows, like, she also, based on what happened with the whole Claire thing, that she could have been in danger. But of course she's going to try. She's not going to give up, and she's going to continue to fight, because that's what she's been doing this whole game. And so even though, it didn't work out perfectly with like this, final 3, but his supposed final 3 on the block, because of, trust and the ego, at the end of the day, Tiffany is still like, yeah, it happened, but I'm going to still fight. I'm going to still continue in this game. I'm not giving up. So, yeah, and I'll probably send you home if I get off the block. So,
Okay. All right. That's the episode here for tonight. Love to bring in the live feed spoilers at this point in time. So we are going to talk about the weekend and the spoilers and the veto and everything that's coming up for tomorrow. So if you're leaving us at this point, we're going to be back with another episode recap coming up on Wednesday. Anything else to say about tonight's episode? I think we said it all. I mean, it's really a miracle that we went over an hour talking about this episode with taking up 20 minutes of our time. So without further ado, let's bring in the weekend in the live feed spoilers.
The Office of Civil Defense has issued the following message. This is
a spoiler.
Warning.
A spoiler.
Warning means that an actual
Spoiler.
against this country has been detected, and that protective action should be taken.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good night, everybody. Let's just go. Good night.
no spoilers.
Looking at you, Taran.
You said there'd be hope.
They played the BB Comics, the veto, and the smartest idiot won the veto. And he's not using it on Tiffany. I'll tell you that. He might use it on Hannah, just to test Azza.
What's the test to see who she'll vote for?
Huh?
Make sure she doesn't vote Big D out.
That loyalty test.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem super smart, but
okay.
Yeah,
what are we talking about?
Taran, can you just talk us through that is Tiffany's campaign to get Kylan to try to use the veto? Where are we at with that?
So basically, Tiffany did what I was saying before about she gave him everything. She said, "I am wholly yours, Kylan. I throw myself upon your holy whims. And I apologize. I have done so wrong to you. And I apologize, and I will be completely loyal to you moving forward. and I will give you my entire game, and I will take you to the end, and I will vote for you, even if you vote me out, because I care about our relationship, Kylan. And he said, this all sounds great, but you did still that one time not trust me, so.
Yeah, and I kept seeing her like again, she still kept beating over the head like Xavier is the player to beat. If you take him to the end, you won't be able to beat him. And then she was like, oh, but if I go to jury, I'll campaign for you. I was like, no, don't say that. Was there anything in her plea, Taran, that was different than her plea before she went up on the block?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a complete turnaround from where she was before. Like fully being like, you were completely in the right. I am completely wrong. We talked about it, this morning. But this is not what I mean. This is what Kylan wants, but it's not what Tiffany needs him to want, if that makes sense. The problem is that he doesn't respect her game enough, and her kind of like being like, I need you, Kylan, doesn't really help that so much. He's, I think, probably very pleased with this conversation, but it's not going to help save her.
I know this sounds silly, but maybe she just needs to say why she's gonna win the game. She would win the game, or she's playing the best game, or like why she's playing a better game than X. Like, I don't know, maybe at this point, because we feel like Tiffany might very well go. So I don't think it would necessarily do any worse damage. That might actually maybe he'll, in his head, he'll start to think, oh, maybe I should have Tiff in this game because I should go to the end with Tiffany because she's the best competitor.
I think that's the issue, is that I don't think that she knows that that's the combination to this safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to paint yourself a target on your own back.
It doesn't make any sense.
Because it doesn't make sense. Yeah. And so that's where it's like, I wish she was in his DRs, or like, knew what he was saying and knew what he was thinking. But of course, it's hard to know what Kylan's thinking.
Yeah.
So
if she was able to say to Kylan, you think that Xavier's the better player? Why do you think? Because you think that because everybody's been telling you. Who do you think has been getting those people to say that? Because I want the guy targeted.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, she doesn't have enough of that information.
Yeah. And I mean, at this point, I know he won the veto and he hasn't used it yet. The veto meeting is tomorrow, but should she start focusing on the people voting? Because I did see a conversation with her and Azah. One of the first things it looked like she did after she lost the veto was to go up to Azah and like apologize to Azah and just put it out there as to why they may have like had a misconnection through the game, throughout the game. And I from what I saw, I like what she did there. And I've come on this podcast like every week and say like it's not as bad between Azah and Tiffany as everybody really thinks, because again, I think they're alike, and they know what it is to be Black women in like this type of game, and they respect that, especially Azah. That's why I really wanted to hear what Azah felt about the Final Six, because I think Azah really does get it about the mission and all of that. So I liked seeing their chat after the veto loss. Has anything else come of that?
Not really. I mean, things are pretty set here. Tiffany will be leaving this week. The target next week is still Hannah. Hannah still intends to work more on Kylan and Xavier. We will have to wait and see if that has any effect, if anything can be worked out there. But at the moment, it is Tiffany. Next target is Hannah if she doesn't win, and then Azah, who is okay with third place. I don't know how okay she'll be with fourth place, but that's Xavier's concern.
So I just want to talk this through, and then we can rule it out if there's no possibility of this. But we have this 2-hour episode on Thursday. And they haven't announced anything of the sort, but is there any possibility that the person who gets voted out first and then the person who gets voted out second in the double eviction, one of them will have a chance to come back?
I don't think it's impossible. I think it'd be really weird that they didn't say anything about it ahead of time. But I don't think it's impossible.
Weirder than having the Cluckster show up for host a competition tonight.
Honestly, that's expected at this point.
So we have to expect the
unexpected. Yeah.
Expect the unexpected. Yeah, because what is that second hour gonna be? Like, that's what I really want to know. If this is still another double, we just did a double in a with just 1 hour. What is that second hour gonna be?
Jury filler? I don't know. Or maybe they'll give us
how much
that footage we wanted.
We
I mean, I don't know, but maybe they'll give us that footage we've been asking for. Potentially, maybe about the cookout, talking about the significance of the cookout. I'm not really sure because I'm like, yeah, I don't feel like this can go on for 2 hours.
Yeah, at first I was excited because like a double eviction, we can like really get into the weeds on this one and like expand it more. We'll get to see more of the strategy talk probably, but like I don't think that's how it would be. It doesn't make sense to me that they're just gonna like start airing the live feeds of what's happening during the double eviction. Like we got a lot last Thursday, which is a lot more than we usually get. But I don't see them like expecting to fill 2 hours of that. And so I don't know exactly how that would work. Does it just mean that we're going to wait a lot longer before we get to the double eviction portion, with a little bit more space in between? You know, like I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but if it is just a double eviction, I'm actually kind of like concerned that it's going to be boring.
Yeah. And then there's a Friday episode too, right?
Yeah. So this 1 week from tonight, the Emmys are going to be on CBS. So we've also been, theorizing that maybe we get the double eviction and the next HOH also in the 2 hour episode, where then we come back on a Friday night and then we need to get our Sunday night episode. So basically we need to get at least the nominations in that by the end of Friday night, which is usually like the nominations are usually only happening in the House by Friday afternoon. So I don't know necessarily how we're going to get the turnaround. So I would definitely think that whatever the Friday night episode is going to be, there will be like a filler element to it, but we're not sure if they're going to have like the regular Sunday night festivities. We'll see.
Wow.
Schedule gets wonky here in the home stretch. All right. Anything else from the weekend of the feeds that we should be highlighting here, Taran?
Not really. I mean, nothing that isn't just more the men thinking they've done everything. You know.
Yeah. Xavier and DF, didn't they like say in front of everybody that they came up with the master plan or something like that? And then Tiffany asked him like, "Oh, but you came up with it? Why didn't you say it out loud?" They're like, "Oh, no, you said it, girl. You're right." What?
Yeah, they later were like, "We'll let her have it. You know, we'll let her. We came up with it, really. I mean, we didn't like formalize anything, but like, she basically just did what we were already doing. But we'll let her have it."
And they claim the cookout women haven't been pulling their weight, but who's been winning comps recently? I don't know. So
Tiffany is about to be the first person in the cookout into the jury, and like, I can't see Xavier and Big D like really. They're really not understanding that correctly right now. Like, you want to be on Tiffany's good side if you can. Like,
she sets the tone of the narrative of the cookout when she gets to jury. So it is kind of risky in a sense to send her at 6.
Yeah, and I said this morning, but like this is why I am unimpressed with Xavier's position and like what he's done to get himself there, because he doesn't even know why he's there. He doesn't even know what even happened over the course of most of the season. He has no idea about anything that Tiffany did over the course of the entire season. The most active player, he has no idea that he was on so many people's lips. He was like, yeah, nobody was talking about me. No, everyone was talking about you. And that's why Kai wants you in the end so bad. And the fact that he doesn't know that tells me a lot about his capability as a player.
Yeah, and if he sits there on the finale night and says all that to people on the jury, again, DX and Claire are going to be there on the jury, who worked really close with Tiffany. They're going to know more of the picture maybe than Xavier does on final 2 night. So, that could be very bad for him for him as well.
Mhm.
Wow, I didn't think of it that way, Taran. And again, no, I did not listen to the update this morning because I didn't feel like being sad. I literally stayed away from everything this whole weekend because I was like, nope, I'm gonna be in high spirits. So I will
Kirsten
catch
brought,
up when I catch up.
she brought the sadness. She was
yeah.
blanketing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I might gotta go back and listen.
But
And,
I will say that, like, to the victor goes the spoils. Where I feel like that if X does win this season, then like retroactively, like X was the mastermind of everything from BB23. Like I feel like that's sort of like to the people who are like maybe not paying as careful attention to the show. Like I think that is how the show is going to end up spinning it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be really pissed if that happens for several reasons because we've already been given, Tyler was the true mastermind of BB20 and Casey just won. Like, you know what I'm saying? If it's so easy to kind of discard a female winner, Nicole, Paul really ran that season. Paul should have won.
Mhm.
Like, if it's so easy to just kind of discard a female winner and kind of discredit her win, if Xavier wins with doing very little, why should he be given the credit, when we know who the drivers of the cookout were? We knew that the cookout like mostly benefited Xavier. Like I would be very upset with that.
Well,
and again, it's another problem.
Are not going to let that happen on our watch, Mari. But I'm just saying that I think
Taran is not.
Yes. But I suspect that's like how the show will paint it moving forward. I feel like that they like to do that. But we'll see.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened.
I mean, I said this today. If the show decided today, you know what? Let's just go all in on Big D saying that he masterminded this whole season. Then for the rest of time, no matter what we had to say about it, the majority of Big Brother fans would, 10 years from now, talk about Mastermind Big D. Like, that's just how the edit controls all. And there is very little that any of us can do about it.
No.
Yeah, sadly, not even BB Twitter or these podcasts can, survive the edit.
Yeah.
And we're kind of seeing that in real time, aren't we? Because of like Kylan, because Kylan's first season he watched was like BB19, and then he like watched BB20 or whatever, and then like he like binged BB16. Like, so all of this egotistical male driven BB winner stuff is in his head because of the edit. So that's a very fair point there, Taran. So it'll be really funny, like if Ozzy just pops up and wins, and then what? Like what happens now?
Take it. All right. Let's take a couple questions. Super Sarah says, "Do you think that Kylan would have still targeted Tiffany if he hadn't aligned with Xavier?" Taran, that we saw that the gentleman formed. If it wasn't for that, would Kylan have still made this move against Tiffany here?
I mean, if Xavier had said, no, I don't want to work with you, maybe he doesn't target Tiffany. But I mean, Kylan wasn't working with Xavier. He decided he wanted to, approached Xavier and was like, I want to get Tiffany out of here. Are you cool if I take you to the end? And Xavier's like, yep. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if like it could have gone any other way.
Okay. This is a question from Paula. Who would Xavier take to the end, Kylan or Big D? Do we know this, if this was a final three and Xavier ended up winning the final HOH?
I believe that Xavier is inclined to take Big D. However, Kylan is the smartest idiot Tiffany knows, and it would not completely shock me if he manages to convince Xavier to take him to the end, nor would it shock me if he then beat Xavier. I don't think that these scenarios are impossible, but I think that if I had to place a bet on it right now, I would say Xavier takes Big D.
Okay. How about this question from Lex? And I think that Lex is asking a question that can't be answered. Why doesn't Kylan target Azah? Not only is she targeting him, but it would align with his sentiment of keeping the best, aka Tiffany, to the end.
Well, here's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that Tiffany stopped trusting Kylan.
Mm.
Sorry, Tiffany's family, but she shouldn't have stopped trusting me. That's why I'm evicting her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ozza just doesn't trust Kylan.
Ozza
period.
never trusted him.
So it doesn't matter.
yeah.
It doesn't matter.
What's worse? You know, I
It's
guess
to go from trusting and not is a bigger issue for Kylan. So
makes sense.
So also, if Ozza wins in this double, does she put up Kylan and Hannah then?
I do not know for sure. She has said a few times that she does not want to put a woman up, but she has also said that she wants to honor the deal that she made with Kylan. She's played an honest game, and so she's kind of felt like she may need to put Xavier up next to Hannah, or she may need to do something else, and so it is definitely not clear at this time what exactly she would do.
If Xavier accidentally goes out on a Ozza HOH, I will lose my crap. Like, that doesn't even make sense. What is happening here, people? Like, I am so confused. This house is...
But that's why we need more DRs from Ozza, because I feel like we're not getting a sense enough of like her game, and I wish I knew more. Like, I wish we had more insight, just like from the game standpoint. And because I feel like we knew a lot like when it came to her relationship with Brittany, but I feel like since like I don't know much like what her motivations are, who she wants to be at the end of it. Like, we know who she's close with and has relationships with, but I just want to know more, and especially for that sort of scenario. If she won HOH, like, I know that she is not a fan of Kylan, but there are all these scenarios, so who knows?
All right.
And let me just point out, I would like that situation. I would just be so confused as to how that happened.
Yeah, agreed.
She has a middle school crush on Xavier,
but maybe the crush might be over if he went out the door.
Yeah. Or what if that Ozza won? Would Xavier be like, Ozza, here's my number?
And then it's fake. It's like...
Yeah, she's like, I don't need it. Okay. Anything else BB23 tonight?
My last question: who does Hannah put up? She put up Xavier and Kylan.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. She's making a deal with them, a final 3 with them, to try to get them to not put her up. But she said, if I win HOH, all deals are off. One of you has to go.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Let's talk about what's coming up. Okay. On Monday morning, it's going to be another Maggie Monday when she will have the honors of joining Taran for the day 69 recap.
There you
go. All right. So very exciting. Big day in the Big Brother house. On Monday night, I will be back for The Slop here with Lita Brillman, and we'll talk about all the nonsense going on in the world of Big Brother. Make sure you let us know any sloppy Big Brother stories you see coming up for tomorrow for the patrons of Rob Has a Podcast. And then what else we have going on? Oh, the Stock Watch is back, and it's always going to be fun when Jacob Jones joins the Stock Watch on the roundtable with Taran and Melissa. That's coming up on Tuesday. You don't want to miss that to get the latest stock prices. And then on Wednesday, we'll be back after the episode to talk about the veto and all of the conclusion of BB Comics Week with Taran, Brian Cohen, and Asia Welch coming up on Wednesday night. So that should be a lot of fun. This past Tuesday, talked about top 2 baby season of Survivor. It was Survivor Cagayan, Puya Zambakili, and Washington Post TikTok guy Dave Jorgensen joined me. And then this Tuesday night, we'll be talking about the #1 season of all time, and the top 40 countdown will finally be over.
Woo.
At last, 40 weeks. 40 weeks.
Oh, I love it.
I love it.
Rob, you'll get your life back.
You deserve an award, Rob. Like,
I don't want to talk about it yet. I still got one more mountain left to climb.
That's true.
And it looks like it'll be full circle there because wasn't Chappelle on the 40th ranked season?
Chappelle got it started. He talked about the worst season and that with Chantel, and then here he is with Shannon. So 40 weeks ago, we got it started. Heroes versus villains. I got to finish my rewatch here in the next 2 days. So be on the lookout for that Tuesday night. Oh, and then okay. Everybody, get ready that the 2022 Zaddy calendar is here. Bryce, join
Kylan's
me.
on the calendar.
What's that?
Kylan. They got Kylan on the calendar.
Kylan is a Zaddy?
Yeah, look. Look right there. You see the image.
Oh, yes. Okay, that's a visual. Woo is on the cover. He wanted to take the best player to the end. So there you go.
That's true.
Yeah. Bryce and I talked it through. Everybody that made the cut for the 2022 Zaddy calendar on Rob as a podcast. That was a very fun podcast with Bryce. And then over the weekend, our Circle Roundtable got back together. This weekend, it was myself and Taran and David Bloomberg and Puya and Sasha to talk about week 1 of the Circle. Taran, a lot of fun.
Yes, I've been enjoying the Circle this season. So, it came kind of quickly, but it's been bringing some heat. I'm enjoying it.
Okay, all right. We'll be doing roundtables every week on the Circle. Has anybody checked out the Netflix film He's All That?
No.
Or was it just me? Yes.
Just you. Yes.
Oh, I've talked on the latest Robin and Keepanita podcast. We talked about Netflix's He's All That, the spiritual sequel to the 1999 film She's All That. It was the ultimate Renap cliffhanger this week, as we talked about He's All That from Netflix. And then over on the Married at First Sight recap, Asia and Amy were joined by the Jessica Sterling to talk about episode 8 of Married at First Sight. So check that out over on our Rahap Ups feed, as Brian and Allie are talking about the challenge, as they do every week on our challenge Rahap Up. And then also our patron podcast feed is jam-packed. The monster is the patron podcast feed. That's the true monster this month because of everything we're doing with Big Brother and with Survivor. We've added an all-new Survivor Q&A for the Survivor season. It's going to be a very fun season of podcasts over our patron podcast feed at robinswebsite.com/patron. Of course, check out all of the offers from our sponsors at robinswebsite.com/offers and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like watching us in addition to hearing us on the podcast, and be sure to check us out on social media. We're at Rob as a Podcast on Twitter and at Rahapgrams on Zingstagram. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Scott, for all of that. Okay, Geneva, what's coming up for you?
Yeah, well, everyone can follow me at Peace Love Jen on Twitter, where I tweet all about reality TV that I'm watching. So, Big Brother 23, Bachelor in Paradise, Hell's Kitchen, Survivor South Africa, The Circle, etc. There's been so much drama with Bachelor in Paradise.
Yes.
It's a mess. People being there for the right reasons. People saying people don't have prospects, which is kind of messed up. But anyway, that's
a whole other people don't have prospects, Geneva.
That was Brendan being awful to Natasha. But at the end of the day, Natasha has exceeded him in followers, and he's lost followers.
She doesn't have dating prospects, or
that's what he said. That's what he said.
Yeah.
And are we sure he was just saying she didn't make the merge?
It's funny because actually some people were there were some Survivor references in this last week, so
there was
it was like a weird crossover going on. But aside from that, you can also catch me over at Silent Podcast. This weekend I chatted with Sasha about the most recent episodes of the Challenge 37. We also have some Rob Has a Podcast podcasters doing some fun content over there, including Mari's Wrestling Rahap Up co-host Matt Scott, who's talking about the Black Widow Brigade, and Sasha Chappelle, who are talking about Never Have I Ever. And lastly, I'll be back next week on Rob Has a Podcast talking about The Circle.
Okay. All right. Well, Chico, great job. Great to have you back here tonight. Mari, what's coming up for you?
Right now, wrestling wrap up. We are still on a hiatus. We should be back in about 2 weeks or so. But you can still catch our podcast on YouTube. Rob has a podcast YouTube. It's great on the YouTube. I always suggest go watch the video because we bring up the cool wrestlers pictures and all that. We have great RHAP guests. We've had Jenny on, we had Grace on, we've had all of your favorites, and you don't have to watch wrestling to listen. We go through it. It's for casuals, all that good stuff. Hopefully I'll be on some, I want to be on some other these reality TV shows, just like Geneva. I'm watching BIP. I was on Married at First Sight a few weeks ago, because that's been a good season as well. Still watching The Challenge. Just follow me on Twitter at Mari Talks Too Much, and I'm pretty sure I'll be talking over there about all the craziness I'm watching. So, yeah.
Would the Cluckster be a good WWE persona?
Oh my gosh. I mean, the gobbledygooker kind of made it. So the Cluckster is right up WWE's alley. Yeah.
This be a guy like the Red Rooster. I think that was the guy.
Red Rooster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So right up their alley. They'd love that campy stuff.
Yeah. All right. And then Taran, great job tonight, Mari. Taran, what's coming up for you?
Well, as always, you can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. Played some Among Us today. Hung out with the episode as we weathered through the storm of this competition in the episode together. And I'll be back tomorrow, of course, with all the different podcasts and such. You can also find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran.
Okay. All right, Taran, great job as well. Tonight we'll be back on Monday with much more Big Brother, and I will join you for the slop Monday night. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.